Jacinta Parsons on ABC Radio Melbourne and Victoria.
Wow, we have encountered so many incredible and diverse occupations and people who do the jobs in our segment, How Do You Earn a Crust, every Monday afternoon around this time. I don't think we've ever had one quite as wowzers as this one. I didn't know this existed. I'm fascinated by what it is. We're speaking about the job of being a cuddle therapist. Your next guest opened a cuddle studio at the beginning of the year and has become fully accredited as a cuddle therapist. She joins you this afternoon to tell us how she earns a crust from Life Spiral's Natasha Hund.
Hi, thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, I am just so fascinated. Let's kick off right at the start. I believe you started working in your therapy work at the Royal Children's Hospital. Did that involve cuddle therapy?
Well, no, it didn't. So I trained at the Royal Children's. I was working at Frankston Hospital. I used to be a child life therapist, so I was doing a lot of procedural support work for the children, which involved a lot of touch and co-regulation with the children. And it wasn't until I started the cuddle work that I realised it was actually wonderful training in learning about how to use touch to soothe and regulate and calm down and settle. I sort of had a whole repertoire of using touch that I'm now bringing into my cuddle work, which has been really great.
So the cuddle work is now with largely an adult cohort, is that true?
Yeah, so I'm doing cuddle events. And, so people just sort of book into the event. So to attend, you have to be 18 years or older. And then, it's just the description's always on the event. So it's just platonic touch. So I think cuddle can be a bit of a trigger word for some people because cuddle can be used as code for something that might turn into a sexual advance. So we sort of untangle that and look at touch, like a platonic touch, just in that sense of it being intimate, caring. It won't ever lead into sexual advances. All participants in the events, we have an agreement at the start that we all agree to those things so that it's very clear. And then in the event, we do lots of introduction to consent work, boundaries, and we practice them. So there's exercises where we actually practice those things, so everyone has a really good level of dialogue and comfort around touch. And, it's really important to know too with cuddles and touch events and cuddle events that touch is always optional. You could come to an event and not engage in any touch at all. So the focus really for me is on connection. And then every time we give an invitation, if you want to do an exercise, there's always a touch option and there's other ways to connect with people that are non-touch. So, it's a really sort of well thought out sort of programs and events.
So explain to me the basis of cuddle therapy. Why is touch such a crucial part of being a human? Yeah,
so I predominantly have worked with children, so I knew a lot about touch with children for bonding, for care, building up the nervous system, building up that relationship rapport. And then I've started working more in parenting support and with adults, and I wanted to learn more about touch for adults, and that's what brought me into the cuddle therapy, like the training of it. Touch does wonderful things to our bodies. It can help you feel a greater sense of safety. It can reduce your blood pressure, calm down your heart rate, help you release oxytocin so you feel bonded and connected to the other person. It has all these wonderful wellbeing and health benefits that it has as well, and that sense of belonging connection for mental health as well is just so important.
What about
as part of that?
What about this whole idea, though, of cuddling someone that you may not have known 5 minutes before the cuddle?
Yeah, I often get asked that when I get told what I do. You cuddle strangers, so you would never feel pressured or that you would need to touch or cuddle someone. So if you came to a cuddle event, again, we do without touch. There's all this welcoming, introducing ourselves to each other. So we get to know each other in the room a little bit. And then any invitations we start doing around learning about consent. The first few exercises, it's very clearly stated there's no touch required. So So it's not like you're thrown in the deep end ever to touch. And so you're only touching when you have a level of comfort and when it feels okay for you. And so, a lot of it is like learning to listen to your body for your yes and your no. So if you actually have someone say, can I have a hug? And you listen into your body and it's a no, we fill you up and you would have learnt how to say no, thank you. Thank you for the offer, but no, thank you. You might say maybe another time. And, it's like, listening to what the needs are. Or it might be a yes, and you might think, oh, I actually feel a yes, and you might have a hug and think, oh, this is a new experience for me, I really enjoy it. Or this is a new experience for me, I'm still not 100% sure how I feel. So it's just learning to tune into your own body as well and being responsive to your own needs.
Someone's texted through saying, I'm not used to being touched anymore. If someone does that, it gives me a fright these days. Who's coming along to cuddle sessions?
Well, it's particularly after what happened in Melbourne. I think a lot of people were touch deprived. And so in some ways it is almost like social skills teaching again. So again, it's always at your own timing, your own pacing. You learn to say what you need. So there are never going to be a surprise. You will always be asked if you want to be touched or hugged. So we use what we call the ask and wait method. You will always be asked if you want to be touched. And then the wait method is you just wait for the other person to respond. So they have time to process whether it's a yes or no for them. And then, whether it's a yes or no, you would hug or you wouldn't hug, or you would touch or you wouldn't touch. And you can always negotiate. Like someone might say, can I give you a hug? And you might feel like, I don't feel like a hug, but I do feel like some sort of touch connection. And you might say, could I hold your hand instead? And then they'll let you know whether it's a yes or no. So there's actually a lot of, like consent and control over your experience. It's not like someone's just going to surprise you.
Do you take your cuddle show on the road? Do you go and visit people who might need cuddles?
I haven't at this stage. What I've done at this stage is just events. So I work at different venues at Melbourne. So at the moment I'm working through a venue in Fitzroy and another venue in Paran. So it would just be people like just booking to see what events I had available and then deciding whether they wanted to come or not.
And so is this something that then people take into their life? Is it learning how to reconnect, or is it sort of more so finding a space that people can connect in?
I think it's been both, the feedback that I've had from people. Certainly some people have needed to learn how to connect. I've also seen some people that haven't grown up in affectionate households, so it's like they're wanting to learn these new skills, and that's the benefit is sometimes people come to events, that they come repeatedly, so that you can practice your skills in, sort of a safe environment. People just come for lots of different reasons. Sometimes it is that entanglement that people might be in relationships, but they're not getting a lot of touch that is non-sexual, so they're building up a rapport of how to communicate and get that affection on that platonic level. And the verbal skills, like it's like learning how to ask for what you would like or say your yes and no's.
And saying no, it's quite a confronting thing to do if you've been brought up to make someone outside of you feel okay.
Yeah, that people pleasing. So I get lots of positive feedback. We do an exercise that has no touch. Very specifically, you get asked for a hug and you have to answer with a no thank you. And so it's to get used to saying that, but also because of the way that it's framed, when you're saying no thank you, it's because you're listening to your body and it's saying no. So the other person who's receiving the no, rather than seeing it as a rejection, you can frame it that you're allowing the other person to honour their own needs. And it really changes the mindset of giving and hearing a no. So that's been a really fantastic sort of feedback and responses we've had from that. So you have to practice saying no. And then when we're going into the exercises where you could answer with a yes or a no, there's some confidence about, it's okay for me to say to no. I don't have to worry about the other person's feelings. We've, had an agreement in the room or understanding that people are just honouring their needs. And it's almost like being gifted a no rather than it feeling like a rejection.
That's it. That's actually incredible on both sides. This one, told my son the Cuddle Professional was a real job and he looked at me in horror. Possibly not a job for a teenager, says Beck from Balan. It's really wonderful to hear about the work that you do. Is there much of this going around? We've only got 20 seconds, but are many other people working as cuddle therapists?
There are a few in Melbourne pre-pandemic that haven't started working yet again. So, maybe they'll be popping back up again. I've sort of connected with them. But it seems to be emerging again, which is fantastic. I think there's more interest and more people interested in training.
Natasha Hund, thank you so much for joining us to tell us what a cuddle therapist does. Teenagers, there might be some that are interested in following through. Hey, thank you very much to let us know. She's joining us from her business called Life Spirals.